Over the last few weeks, we've been having a lot of fun playing around with acrylic paint texturing, and based upon some of the great ideas you folks have sent in, I have some more for you this week on Mixed Media Masters. Hello makers, and welcome to Spectuva Studios. Now, if this is your first time here, then it's good to have you here. By the way, we drop a video every single week, so if learning about how to use painting supplies and mixed media and creating art is the kind of thing that makes you interested, yeah, hit on that subscribe button. We'd love to talk to you more every single week. Now, as promised, today we're going to go back into our exploration of different types of acrylic paint texturing. We've covered a pretty good assortment of textures and techniques over the last few weeks, and today I want to provide you with 5 more things that we can do. Some of them are very surprising, and the results we're going to get. Now, as we've done in the past, I'm just working on some sample pieces of heavy-duty watercolor paper, and it's just going to allow us to proof of concept. We're not making any masterpieces today. We'll do that in some upcoming videos for sure. But for the most part, if I'm working with my piece of paper and I want to create something that's going to be, you know, just a different type of texture and something that's interesting and not just flat colors on a piece of paper, how can I make that happen? And as promised, we're going to be looking at a couple of different things we can do today. Let's start off with something fairly simple, and that is I'm going to lay down some paint on here, just using a standard paintbrush, and make it a little bit wet. And then I'm going to change the texture of it using a paper towel. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. I'm going to get some, like I said, just get some colors in here that I can blend together. We'll get some of this orange yellow. And let's get some bright yellow here as well. Let's get that on here. Again, we don't need too much since we're going to blend it all together. And now the real objective here is let's just create something that we can create a bit of a gradient effect between these two colors as much as we want. There we go. I'm going to get some good coverage on my piece of paper here. Nice bright background. Now I'm going to want to add a little bit of water to this. By the way, using a spray bottle is really one of the better ways to do this. I don't have mine set up today for some reason. I'm not sure where it's scurried off to. So I'm just going to use a little bit of water that I can drop onto here. And again, the objective here is just to get this paint a little bit more pliable. So I'm going to mix that water in and get something that's a little bit, just a little bit more liquefied. There we go. And that should give us the effect we want. Now, the orange has pretty much dominated, but that may change when we come in here. And what I want to do is I want to grab a paper towel, not unlike this one right here, and I may even fold it over just to make it a little bit easier for me. I'm going to make it a little damp just to kind of get a little moisture in there using my water bottle here. And the objective now is to come in here and to press it into the paint that I've already put down. And then I'm going to peel it away, and I'm going to reveal a very unique texture. Now, this is a variation on something we did a few weeks back. But again, this is one of those things after the fact. If I'm working on a large canvas, let's say, and I have a section I want to put some texture, if I wet it down and then can hit it with a paper towel, then I can create something that's going to hopefully show the colors in the background that will come through. We can also take our paper towel, and instead of relying on the textures in here, let me get this a little bit more wet. I can also kind of crumple it up, and with it crumpled up, now it's an opportunity for me to have a little bit more texturing based upon the crumples and not on the texture of the paper towel. And by the way, the texture on the paper towel is going to matter, but if I come in here and just do some dabbing, I can again affect what the overall texture is going to be that's left on the paper. All right, so a simple technique, but one that can be incredibly effective. Now let's take a look at texture number 2. Okay, now this time we're going to do a slight variation on that theme, and again, I'm going to lay down some basic colors to get started. I have a purple here. I'm not going to overwhelm myself with paint this time. That was a little too much on the last piece. And let's get some of this lighter yellow in here. This will go nice with the purple. And again, we'll just kind of, it's a little thick, giving me a little grief coming out, but that'll work. And let's get this turquoise or teal blue color in here as well. Again, just something we can blend together is the overall objective. And again, I'm going to start a little bit of a kind of just creating some swaths of color. I'll do kind of my blue down here. Make that happen. All right, there we go. And let's do the same thing for the yellow. Again, we're going to kind of pick that up and blend it in this area best we can. And by the way, this paint is very thick, so it's almost like putting paste down at this point. This one's a little wetter. There we go. And again, the overall goal is just to get something we can affect with our colors. Now again, I'm going to drop a little bit of water in here because we're going to need some, because this paint again is incredibly thick. I could have started with some thinner paint. That might have made things a little easier. But hey, you know what? Sometimes we just have to be able to pivot, and here we are pivoting. All right. This is not masterpiecey right now at all, but when it dries, it will be a little bit more so. But again, with proof of concept, a couple things that I can show you here. And what I want to do now is I want to use a variation of what we just did with the paper towels, and I want to use instead newspaper. And there are two variations on this theme that I want to share with you. One is I've taken some newspaper and just cut it into strips. And one of the things I can do is if I come in here and I place the strips into my wet paint, then where it peels off, I'm going to pick this up now, it's going to leave some demarcation. Now again, maybe very hard to see on camera, but that is one thing you can do. So if you wanted to come in here and take these strips of paper and crisscross them and create something to pick up some of that paint, it's also going to show the background color. In this case, the yellow is coming through a little bit better. Now another thing I can do is just take a piece of newspaper and I can crumple it up and then use this almost like I would a sponge, and I can dab at the paint. And as I push on this, it's going to transfer the texture of the crumpled newspaper ball into the artwork. Now this, as you can see, is a lot more dramatic a look, and it allows us to create something that has some raised texture. And also you can see the color, like the blue that was kind of covering everything, has now been removed to reveal the yellow and the purple that's underneath it. And again, this is the kind of thing that if you're working on a canvas and you have a section and you want it to be a little bit more interesting, a crumpled up ball of newspaper would be just something you dab at it to create some sort of a textured effect. So there we go, there's texture number 2. Let's take a look at texture number 3. Now for this texture, we are going to use paint that's a lot thinner. I have some paint that I've watered down, so I have a couple of squeeze bottles here. I have some red in here and some purple in here, and if we want, we also have some sky blue and some orange. Now, the objective of this technique is to let gravity help us out. So let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to drop some paint here at the top of my painting, and again, I'm just going to create kind of a line and maybe do a little something like that and cap that. And I'm going to do the same thing with some purple. Come in here and let's just kind of fill in some of the other areas that we have, like that. And let's get some of this sky blue in there as well. I think this will. Oops, this is definitely ready to go. And one last thing. What the heck? We have orange. Let's put some orange in here. The more the merrier. Now, as you may have already figured out, we're going to use the wetness of the paint, and we're going to now take the paper and we're going to tilt it, and we're going to let it run down. That's why I have this protective sheet here. And we're going to create some interesting textures. I'll show you what we're seeing in just a second. There we are. So the cool thing about this approach, again, is if we're working on a vertical surface like a canvas, and we wanted to be able to do something to really create, again, an interesting texture or a paint overlay covering of some sort, then being able to have some of this paint that's probably not super thin, but something that we can squirt on our canvas in places and have it drip down is going to create a really cool effect. As you can see, it's blended the colors kind of nicely. We can get some really fun variations on a theme. So again, none of these are hard, but it's just being able to think about places where we can use these different textures. Now that's number 3. Let's take a look at number 4. Now our next technique is going to require maybe going to the kitchen and rummaging through the recycle drawer. Yeah, that's right. We're working with recycled materials. I have some bottle caps in here, some containers. I have just a can and a bottle, and I also have some stainless steel wool. But basically, anything that we can create textures with is really what we want to think about. Now, we're starting this off with a piece of paper that I've already provided a foundation of color to, just so we have something we can pop against, something that's a little bit more interesting than just on the white. Let me show you what I'm talking about. And again, we're going to just take a standard paintbrush, and I have a palette here with some colors on it. No right way to do this, but if I come in here, for example, and grab my paintbrush, and just start painting around the ring of my bottle cap, let's say, all right, just as an example of something I might be able to use as a stamp almost, then I can take this and I can come into my piece of artwork and I can press it down for a moment and then pull it up. And so I've made a ring, which is not surprising, pretty much what I was looking to do. Next, we're going to grab just a soda can, whatever you might have lying around. I'm going to grab, well, how about a little bit of this orange up here? And I'm going to hit the rim. And again, it doesn't have to be a precise job. We're just trying to get some color up here on top of this because we're hoping to do a bit of a transfer. By the way, if you are using your recycled materials, which you may be, make sure you clean them. You know, make sure there's no food on them. You don't want to put food on your artwork or have, you know, leftover beer in the can or whatever you have here. In this case, I'm going to come in here again. I'm using it almost like a stamp. I'm going to kind of go in here and I might even spin it a little bit if I want to get that off. And then, again, creating a ring. It's a subtle effect, but we're not looking to overwhelm things here. We're looking to create the subtleties. So we can do that. Again, I have other containers. I can create rings if that's what I want. Steel wool. Let's try this out. I'm going to grab this, this blue color right here. And again, I'm going to use this kind of as a dabbing thing. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to dab it into the area that I want to affect. Let's put some right there. Cool. I'm going to grab a little of this magenta too, and we'll kind of overlay that over what we're doing here. A little purple. Why the heck not? Okay. Now again, you might want to have another piece of paper that you can kind of dab it off so you can get to the point where it's very speckly, like it kind of is here, without lots of big blobs of color in there. But again, the bottom line is to be able to create something. I'll just do that. I'm going to use a paper towel to kind of hit this initially, get the big blob out of there, and then I can start coming in here. There we go. It's going to be a little bit more refined. And you can start to see with the speckling that we're doing here. I'll do the same thing for our magenta color here. Get some of the big blob off, and then let's get that in like that. So the layering looks really, really, really cool, again, depending on the background color we're using here. So being able to use and you can wash these again. I'm going to make sure this gets washed before it dries so it doesn't go away. By the way, you don't want to use a steel wool pad that has soap in it, okay? You don't want to use one of those because that's just going to mess up your artwork and get a lot of unnecessary chemicals on things. You might want to stick around for a while. So a stainless steel scrubber is a good option. And again, if you want to make rings, there's all sorts of options in your recycle bin that will allow you to create some really cool types of effects that you can do whatever you want with as a next step. Now for the fifth effect, I'm going to share with you something I think is pretty cool. Okay, and for our final effect, we're going to do something kind of interesting here. Again, I'm going to be laying down some paint. I'm going to make it kind of thick. That's the objective this time. I'm going to do some greens and blues, I think. That's going to be kind of the color family I'm looking at. Here's some green for sure. And I'm going to put one more blue in here, kind of this lighter sky type blue. There we go. Let's get some of that in there. That'll work. And I'm taking a palette knife this time, and I'm going to spread this stuff. I'm going to spread it out almost like I'm frosting the paper with this stuff, and it is thick enough to be a bit of a frosting. And let's get some of this in here as well. And we'll incorporate the darker aqua up here. And again, let's kind of fill that in best we can. Now I want to have some moisture in this paint, but what I'm really looking for here at the end of the day is not really even the color combination. I'm looking at the effect we're going to expose on here. Now, unless you've never ever ordered anything with electronics, you are probably familiar with these little silica gel packs that come with electronics and other things that the manufacturers would like to keep as dry as possible. By the way, you can find these in seaweed snack packages too, like nori, if you're familiar with that. I just got some of these recently in a game that I ordered. Now, it does say do not eat, so please don't do it. No, take it out of your mouth. Don't eat this. I have no idea what the precedent is and who said, I got some electronics and they sent me a candy as well. But what we want to do is we want to take advantage of the drying effects. So what silica gel is designed to do is it's a packet that's put in, and it's designed to draw water molecules toward it so that it doesn't get on the equipment during shipping, etc. And so this is basically something that attracts moisture. And what I want to do is I want to come in here and I'm just opening one of these up with a pair of scissors, and I'm going to scatter it on the surface of our masterpiece here, because this is going to, over time, as it dries, it's going to create an interesting effect. I'm going to do another one since I have a couple to work with here. And let me Yes, yes, I'm the guy who collects silica gel packs from things and puts them in a pile. But I do find that this is a very interesting effect, and I'm glad I have some of these to be able to share with you. All right, I'm just going to kind of distribute them around like that. All right, now you may not be able to see it very well on camera because they are rather translucent. But what I want to do now is I want to give this some time to dry. And I'm not going to hit this with a hairdryer because I want the desiccant balls to actually wick up as much of the moisture as possible. And once it is dried sufficiently, I'll come back and show you what the results look like. Okay, we've given the painting a little bit of time to dry here, and one of the things I'll just share with you is the more time it has to dry, the better the results are going to be. And what we're trying to do here basically is every place one of these little desiccant balls has touched, when we now pick it off, it's going to leave behind a white speck. Basically, it's going to leave behind an area where the paint was drawn up into the ball. And again, it's very subtle right here. I'm not seeing the massive effect. If you let this dry for a few days and then come back and do this, you'll be able to see it. Again, you can see a little bit of the dots that are showing up in here. Here are a few more. But it really is going to work a lot better if you give it more time to dry. And let's get these off of here. But you can start to see, hopefully, even on the camera, that we are getting a section almost like a starry night, where we're getting these sections of pinpoints of white from the paper below that are starting to poke through, because as this pulls up the paint and pulls the moisture, it creates this effect for us. So anyway, silica gel, these desiccant packages, which you're not supposed to eat, so don't do that, but it can be used as an interesting technique to create a little bit of texture for what we do here with our acrylic paints. Anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you today. 5 more awesome ways that you can augment your acrylic painting techniques by creating interesting textures. Thank you so much for your time. Always happy to have you along, and if you're not already a subscriber, yeah, take a moment to do it. It just takes a moment, and you're going to be really happy with the content we're going to be sharing with you every single week. Anyway, this is Spider. Thanks so much for coming by, and I'll see you next time.